My name is Josie Stewart, and today I will be talking about constellations. Constellations are a huge part of the night sky as a whole, and they always seem to catch everyone's attention, which makes them even more interesting and always leaving people to guess what shape they are looking at and what that shape means. I've always found them very interesting, and I have always wondered what the actual meaning behind some of them really are. Constellations are patterns in the night sky, often formed by the most visible star to the naked eye. They form imaginary outlines or meaningful patterns on the celestial sphere. Typically, they represent animals, people, gods, and creatures. There are 88 modern constellations, and these constellations are in certain regions of the sky. Together, they cover the entire celestial sphere. Although there are 88 constellations, only 48 of them are known to be ancient and were talked about in different cultures, including Greeks and Egyptians. Our modern constellation system comes to us from the ancient Greeks. Although they did not create the constellations, they were a big part of them when they were discovered at first. The oldest description of the constellations, as we know them today, comes from a poem called Phenomenon, written about 270 BC by a Greek poet named Artus. Zodiac signs play a huge part in the constellation as a whole. Zodiac signs are still heavily believed in today. In Western astrology, zodiac signs are the 12 30-degree sectors of the ecliptic, starting at the vernal equinox, also known as the first point of Aries. Each of the 12 horoscope signs falls under 4 elements: fire, water, air, and earth. These elements represent an important type of energy that acts in each of us through our sign. Astrology helps focus these energies to help us gain a better understanding of our potential and our positive personality traits, and they help us deal with the negative traits as well. Water signs include Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. They are extremely emotional and very sensitive. They are very clever and seem to be mysterious like the ocean itself. Water signs love deep conversations and intimacy. They are very quiet people, but they are always there to support their loved ones when they need it the most. The fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. They are often set out to be passionate, dynamic, but have a bit of a temper. Even though they have a bit of a temper, they get very angry quickly, but they also are ones to forgive very easily. They are adventurous with tons of energy. They are very strong physically and tend to be an inspiration to others. Fire signs are intelligent, seem to be self-aware. They are very creative and adventurous people, and they're always looking to do something and have fun. The earth signs are more settled and tend to be more down to earth. They are very cautious and reasonable, but they tend to be very emotional as well. They are connected to our material reality and can be turned into material good. They are practical, loyal, and they tend to be very stable, but will stick by their people through whatever they're going through, whether it's good times or bad times. The earth signs include Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. The air signs include Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Air signs are rational, they are very social, and tend to love communications and their relationship with other people. They are good thinkers and very friendly. They are very smart, and they are talkative and seem to be investigative. They also love discussions and like being at social gatherings. They love to read good books, and they enjoy giving advice, but can be very silly at times too. The zodiac signs all have different meanings, but people today who still believe in them believe in a certain one. They normally believe in the one that their birthday date falls under. All the signs have certain dates, and that date that the person's birthday falls under is normally the one that they keep up with if they believe in it. I myself believe in it, and I have an app on my phone that gives me like daily encouragements as a Leo, and it's actually kind of scary sometimes because it's so relevant to like what's going on in my life and like how I'm feeling or just whatever. It's just weird how much a constellation or like a zodiac sign can actually relate to you. People will also use their zodiac signs to see like compatibility between two people. And I'm not gonna lie, I've done it before. With like stupid boyfriends that I've had, whatever. But it's funny to see like the compatibility between them. And I know a lot of people that do that as well. And I mean, they do it for friendships too. But with all that being said, there are only 12 zodiac sign constellations, so let's talk about the other 76. Greek mythology plays a huge role in constellations as well. It helps bring meaning to the shapes that the stars form, and it's kind of crazy because they all have important stories behind each figure in the constellation sky. Greek mythology uses constellations to tell stories through the stars and their shapes that the stars form. The Greeks' knowledge of constellations stretches way back in time to at least the 8th century BC, when Homer made the earliest known Greek reference in the constellations in his epic poem, the Iliad and the Odyssey. The stories include 43 constellations, and some of the 43 are the same as the zodiac figures but have a different meaning in Greek mythology. For example, Aries. The story begins with Zeus and Hera. Hera was courted by Izon, and Zeus tricked him into getting a cloud pregnant that was formed to look like Hera. Then, as punishment for getting the cloud pregnant, Izon was strapped to a flaming wheel and then was rolled in the sky for eternity at the ecliptic. In the zodiac sign, Aries is a ram, and that has nothing to do with the ram, so I'm just like comparing how different it is in zodiac versus Greek mythology. They have other stories too, like Corvus, that didn't have anything to do with the zodiac signs at all. In this story, Apollo sent a white crow to get some pure water for the sacrifice he was preparing for Zeus. The crow stopped to eat some figs, but they weren't ripe yet, so he waited for them to ripen, making his return to Apollo later than Apollo had wanted. The crow returned with a water snake and then lied to Apollo, saying that the snake was the reason why he was running late. Apollo knew instantly that the crow was lying, and it made him super mad. Because he was so mad at the crow, he turned it from white to black, and then he cursed the crow so it would always get a sore throat when the figs would ripen. Apollo also placed the crow in the night sky as a constellation to warn others who might dare to lie to him. All of the stories of Greek mythology are either about gods, goddesses, heroes, and monsters. They were an important part of everyday life to the Greeks in ancient times. All the stories behind the constellations were made up by different cultures and were used as entertainment. So none of these stories were actually true or happened in real life, but many cultures back then believed that the constellation patterns were sent to them by God and they were to put meaning behind them. As I started this presentation, I realized how unique the names of all the constellations actually were. The word constellation comes from a Latin term meaning set of stars, but their meaning often originated in distant pasts of human civilization. Scorpius, for example, was given its name from the Latin word scorpion, but the ancient Egyptians from before 3000 BC referred to the group of stars as IP, the Scorpion King. Orion is another example. It's the hunter. It has a Greek name, but it had been seen to be a hero figure since the ancient times. Many of the constellation names are more modern, like telescorpion, the telescope. It is newer to the constellation family, but a lot of the new constellations have been found by the 19th century, so they're not like really new, but they're newer to the family. And by that time, by the 19th century, the night sky had become crowded with overlapping constellation boundaries. To clear up the confusions, the names and boundaries were officially assigned to all 88 constellations by the International Astronomical Union in the 1930s, providing complete coverage of the entire sky and the constellations within it. I've also wondered how to find constellations. Obviously, you can find some just by looking deep into the stars at night. I have always seemed to find the Big Dipper quite easy because it is the most familiar one in the northern hemisphere. I also used to look for the Big Dipper as a kid all the time, so it's my favorite constellation. The stars that form the Big Dipper seem to be very bright, and the 8 stars that make this shape are very similar in their brightness. It is very easy to see the Big Dipper without really even trying hard to locate it. In addition to the Big Dipper, in the United States and Canada, the handle of the Big Dipper is also known to be part of another constellation called the Great Bear's Tail. The cup in the Big Dipper is known to be the bear's hip, and legends from Native Americans say that the bowl of the Big Dipper is the bear, and the stars of the handle are 3 warriors chasing the bear. To find other constellations, you must be aware of where you are on Earth, and if it is possible, to find the one you are looking for. They have made a star chart that you can use to help you find constellations. You would first need a chart. The second step to this process includes comparing the stars on the map to the ones you normally see in the night sky. And from those hints, you would be able to find what you're looking for. But it does have to do with where you are on Earth and what season you're in and everything like that because of the rotation around the Earth's rotation around the sun. I actually printed out a star chart. I don't know if you can see it, kinda, but I mean it shows you the different seasons, like spring, autumn, winter, and okay, so if we were in winter and I was looking for constellations in winter, I could see Leo, the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, Virgo, and I maybe could see Cancer, I don't know. But, this, I printed off a website, I think how you pronounce it is called, Ariora, or ArioraHunter.com. I also use this website to help me find information about how to locate and find the constellation, sorry. But this constellation map is only for the northern horizon. They do make some for the southern ones, but I just printed out the northern one because it was easier. Anyway, there are many random facts about the constellations, so many that I cannot state them all. But I found a few of my favorite ones. People believe that the Big Dipper is a constellation itself, but it is really a part of a whole nother constellation named Ursa Major. It is said to be the most universally recognized star pattern, partly because it is always visible in the northern hemisphere. The Ursa Major is the largest northern constellation and the 3rd largest constellation in the sky as a whole. The biggest constellation is Hydra, which extends more than 3% of the night sky, while the smallest is Creeks, covering a little more than 1% of the sky as a whole. Some constellations belong to a family of constellations. They usually take their names from the most important constellation of that family. The most popular one is the Hercules family, containing 19 constellations. Another family is the Ursa Major family. It has 10 constellations. The Perseus family, which has 9, and the Orion family, which has 5. The last fun fact is that throughout the year we see different parts of the sky on the Earth's rotation because of the Earth's rotation around the sun. Because we see different parts of the sky, we see constellations all year round, so it is important to always be aware of when you are looking for constellations, like I had with that map. I already told you all about it. But Anyway, it is also important to know why we study constellations other than just to learn about different cultures. They are also used for navigations. Sailors would use constellations to help them when out at sea. They would help the sailors know which way to go by following the constellation that was in the direction that they were going. This would really help them at night because it is hard to tell which way you're going in complete darkness. For example, if a ship was traveling towards the North Pole, the sailors would follow in the direction of the Ursa Minor constellation, known as the Little Dipper. Using constellations to help sailors navigate made it easier for them to discover a lot of more different land on Earth back then, when everything was being discovered. Another reason why constellations are important is because before calendars and before people had no way of determining if another season was coming or how fast the next season was approaching them, they would use constellations to determine the season changes and they would use it by looking at the stars and whatever constellation they could see, they would know, like if it was spring, summer, winter, or fall. I have an example in here. For example, they would know when winter is coming when the constellation Orion, was starting to become completely visible to them. If they didn't have constellations, people within the time, which technology was not around, and in which they didn't have any sort of calendar, they would not be prepared for the seasonal changes and would have less time to get ready for the next season that was approaching. With all of that being said, I have learned so much about studying constellations as a whole, and it was very interesting to learn more things throughout this project. They are very special to the sky, and it's crazy that there are so many different meanings and so many different stories behind each one of them. Thank you so much for taking time to watch my video, and I hope you guys all have a good summer. Thank you.